Last year, I introduced a handful of bills that would help the IRS do their job better. One of those bills, called the IRS Customer Service Improvement Act. This bill simply says that IRS staffers cannot perform any union tasks during the tax season, which seemed to make sense. It doesn't keep them from doing it through the rest of the year. It's just not during the busy tax season. According to the Treasury, fiscal year 2019, 1,400 Treasury employees used over 350,000 hours of taxpayer-funded for union time. Cost $17 million. Of course, that's kind of like chump change in this day and age. Back in Indiana, $17 million is a lot of money. Should be everywhere. Of these employees, 350 of the jobs were IRS customer service representatives. 204 were IRS agents. The American public deserves, out of our agencies, I think, service better than that. We can debate how much money the IRS needs to do its job, but we need common sense policies like this to where we're not trying to restrict what already to many would seem unusual, that when you're on the dime, when you're being paid by the federal government, you maybe shouldn't be able to do union activities at the same time. Anyway, a lot of things don't make sense here. This will immediately add value to the American taxpayer. The IRS is warning Americans to prepare for delays and long hold times when filing their taxes this year. I would say that most folks would say that you need improvement. Here are a couple other particulars. Received more than 100 million calls, but only answered 1 out of 4. Calls averaged 18 minutes of hold time. In my own business, if you had 18 minutes of hold time, you just gave the order to one of your 4 or 5 competitors. None of us like that. Face-to-face assistance declined from 4.4 million in fiscal 2016 to only 1 million in 2020. The IRS is now telling us to buckle up for service even to get worse. Let's use some common sense. Before you raise prices in a business, or you ask your customers to even be more forbearing when you're delivering bad service, your competitors would take you out. Here in the federal government, you don't have that kind of inherent competition, and sadly, the public, American taxpayers, have to put up with it. And when your default position is always to spend more money, I know the American public is interested in something better than this, and sadly, for whatever we do that's above and beyond the ordinary, we were borrowing 23 cents of every dollar we spend here. Now it's up closer to 30 cents, and it's in the context that we're $30 trillion in debt to boot. This is something, what I'm proposing here, since it doesn't eliminate your ability to do it, let's just take it out of the tax season. Madam President, as if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Finance Committee be discharged from further consideration of S-2132 and that the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I further ask that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Madam President.
Is there objection?
Reserving the right to object.
Senator from Oregon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, I certainly agree with the proposition that was advanced by my colleague to improve service at the Internal Revenue Service. The fact, however, is the effect of this proposal is to demean IRS workers and distract from the real challenges facing the IRS. And the real challenge can be embodied by the fact that for years and years, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have been squeezing and downsizing critical enforcement services at the IRS to the point where the wealthy cheats basically can get a free ride. They can get a free ride. Madam President, about the other day in the context of talking about tax cheats at wealthy partnerships that aren't getting audited, I said the chance that they're going to be subject to real enforcement when they're a wealthy tax cheater about the same likelihood as being hit by a meteor. And it is because of these policies that have been downsizing resources at the IRS to deal with these wealthy tax cheats for years. Now, Commissioner Rettig, who is a Trump appointee, former President Trump, recently said there are fewer auditors to deal with these wealthy tax cheats today than at any point since World War II. So they've got that challenge, and then they have an enormous IT challenge because the IRS, by their admission, is still using some systems that are practically dated back to the dark ages. Now, according to the National Taxpayer Advocate, during the last fiscal year, the IRS received a record 282 million customer service phone calls, and with limited staff, was only able to answer 11% of them. Commissioner Rettig told the Finance Committee in a remarkable statement that it was his opinion that the amount of taxes that go unpaid each year could now be as high as $1 trillion. So to just wrap up, I want to describe how this all is connected. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have repeatedly attacked the IRS. They cut, they squeeze, and have constantly reduced the IRS budget. Wealthy tax cheats are out basically celebrating the decline of real tax enforcement. Law-abiding Americans, the vast majority of Americans, are of course frustrated by declining customer service. So then we have our colleagues on the other side of the aisle attack the IRS, and the cycle just repeats. More cuts, less enforcement targeted to wealthy tax cheats, and unfortunately inadequate customer service. That has been the pattern now for decades. In my view, this is a gift to tax cheats and an annual headache for just about everyone else. Now, there's no question the pandemic, and this has been true for every aspect of government, Madam President, has brought new challenges, just like it has for every business, every school, every government agency around the country. And in my view, instead of misplacing what the target really ought to be, which is inadequate resources, so we can't go after the wealthy tax cheats, somehow we're hearing it's the workers, these union members, who are at fault. That's not my take, and for the reasons I've outlined, Madam President, I object.
Objection is heard.
Madam President,
Senator from Indiana.
briefly, respecting what the senator says about wealthy tax cheats, I agree with him 100%. Everybody should pay their fair share, but I guarantee you there wasn't one wealthy tax cheat that was on hold for 18 minutes. They're not calling in. They hired a lawyer or somebody to do it. This is impacting Americans, mom and pop business owners, folks that just need to talk to someone. It's not a wealthy tax cheat that would have made one of 100 million calls. They don't do that. There's another way to go after that. All I'm saying is during the busiest time of the year, let's take the resources that we've got, whether they need to be enhanced or not, and let's let them focus on the job of answering the phone and not making a small taxpayer suffer. They are the ones wrestling with the IRS by numbers, not wealthy tax cheats. I yield the floor.